Talking to that mic.
Okay. All right, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is John Kasai, and I work in the Office of Economic and Community Development over at City Hall. And tonight, we're glad you're all here. This is our community forum as we work on updating our open space and recreation plan for the city of Lynn. The first plan of this type was submitted in 1972, so these plans have been done, every few years for the last now 40+ years. And it's time to update it again. The plan is important for us as we look at strategic direction for our parks, in playgrounds and open space in the city. A lot's been done, as you know, in various parks and playgrounds and green space throughout the city over the last few years, but there's always more to do, and there's potentially always new things to do. And that's part of what you're going to be here tonight to help provide input as a component of the final plan that will ultimately get submitted to the state later in the spring. Does anybody need a translation?
Si alguien quisiera tener traducción al español, por favor levante la mano. ¿Todo el mundo habla inglés?
No, that's good. Thank you for doing that. So tonight, we're gonna go through an exercise and a walkthrough of a lot of components of how this plan comes together, and then and you'll contribute to, as we said, a component of what will be part of our long-term goals and maybe some new things in our open space. The City of Lynn contracted with MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, to help us complete this plan. And tonight, the person that will lead us through is Ralph Wilmer from MAPC, and we've been working with Ralph since last summer, on getting the document to a draft stage now as we try to bring it to its completion this spring. And Ralph will introduce members of his team that are here, to help us tonight. With me from the Office of Community Development, and we have a standing room only crowd, so out back is also John Moberger and Dawn Walker, and we'll be here throughout the evening, and we can help where necessary to answer questions that might come up, as Ralph asks us for any assistance, and then we'll be here at the end to discuss anything you'd like, as we break at the end of the meeting. So I think with that, welcome, Ralph. Thank you for putting this together tonight, and let's get the show on the road.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. It's a small room, but it's always good to see it filled, regardless of size. So my name's Ralph Wilmer. I'm a principal planner with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and I'm taking the lead in putting together the plan for the city. And one of my colleagues, Renato Castillo, is in the back. He's been helping people sign in. So what I want to do is I have a little bit of a presentation, and we'll open it up for comments and questions as we go along. So what we want to do tonight is give you an introduction to the Lynn Open Space and Rec Plan. And I should mention also, in case you haven't heard already, we do have some pizza and some drinks in the little kitchen behind that wall there. So you should help yourself as we go along. I'll have some survey questions, and most of you have gotten these little keypads, but I'll pass out keypads for people who haven't gotten them yet. I'm going to just go over some basic statistics about the city, its demographics, and land use and existing open space and recreational facilities. And then we're going to have a discussion about what you view as the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats regarding the city's open space and recreational facilities. So that'll be an open conversation that we want to get your input on. And then on the wall and in the slides, we have the list of the goals that are in the current plan, and we'd like to get your input as to whether or not those still remain in effect and are useful, and then also to get some idea from you as to what the priorities should be. And then we'll just talk quickly about next steps. So when we talk about open space, what is open space? It's a pretty broad definition. Probably in the way, right? So we're talking about conservation land, forested land, recreation land, agriculture, corridor parks, and amenities such as small parks, green buffers along roadways, or any open area that is owned by an agency or organization dedicated to conservation. And that's sort of a definition that the state has used, but the term can mean many different things to many different people, and you all may have some suggestions for what really should be considered as open space. In some cities and towns that I've worked in, where you have the median strips in the roadway and they're manicured and maintained by a garden club or something like that, some cities and towns consider that to be open space. So it's really in the eye of the beholder. So why do an open space and recreation plan? There are a number of different reasons, and as John mentioned in the introduction, the city's been pretty good about doing that. They've been doing it since the early 70s, and they've been updating it on a regular basis, and we're doing it again now. So the purpose is to provide information about the community and what residents want to achieve in the next 7 years. It helps to encourage community protection and stewardship, protection of these vital resources. When a city or town completes an open space and recreation plan, it makes them eligible for state grants to either acquire new conservation land or to improve its existing parks and recreational facilities. And the city has been pretty successful in obtaining those grants in the last few years. And then, most importantly, from the state's perspective, the city's plan is expired now, so we're updating it so that it can continue to apply for these grants, which are typically, the application for that is typically during the summer of each year. So the goals from the most recent version of the plan is to improve and upgrade existing recreational facilities, improve the overall appearance and visual character of the city, increase opportunities for water-based recreation, increase awareness and recreational use of historic sites and districts, continue to improve accessibility to existing sites for elderly and disabled users, determine potential locations for new neighborhood and community-wide recreation sites, development of pedestrian-oriented circulation between open space and recreation areas, improve security and maintenance at all sites, and manage and improve opportunities for forest-based recreation. So, next we're going to get into these survey questions. So, I know I passed out these to most people, but some of you came in a little bit later. So, who does not have?
Una vez más, si alguien que necesita interpretación, tenemos a alguien aquí para ayudar. Si quiere alzar la mano, en caso de que cosas que no se entiendan. ¿Interpretación? ¿O el... ¿Cuántos estamos? Tres.
Anybody else? Okay, so basically, I'm going to show a bunch of questions that are multiple choice, and you just pick the response based on the letter that's on the keypad with what's on the slide. So just so you get used to it, the first question is not really directly related to the open space plan. How do you like your peanut butter? Smooth, crunchy, super crunchy, peanut butter is gross, I'm allergic, or other. So just pick the response that you want. All set? Smooth seems to be the majority. Okay, so the next series of, the next couple of questions are designed to see who's here in the room. So, why are you here tonight? Are you a Lynn resident? Do you work in Lynn but don't live in Lynn? You have friends or family who live in Lynn? You like to visit Lynn because of its open space and recreational facilities, or other? Everyone all set? Okay, so all of you pretty much are Lynn residents. A couple of people also work in Lynn. The next question is, how long have you lived in Lynn? Less than 5 years, 5 to 10 years, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, or more than 30? And either you don't, or if you don't live in Lynn, you can choose F.
Okay, we have a stroller,
So pretty good distribution. About a third of you have lived in Lynn for more than 30 years, and a quarter of you have lived here 10 to 20 years. Did you want to, we're doing some electronic surveys. Okay, the next question. What is your favorite activity when you visit parks and recreation facilities in Lynn? Now for this one you can pick 3 choices. So look at the list. It includes beaches, splash pads.
Rob, would you mind saying the letter and the...
Okay.
Because it's hard to read from here.
Okay. Yeah, some of them I had to make smaller because of the number of choices. So A is beaches, B is splash pads, C, ball fields, whether it's for soccer or softball or things along those lines. D is for biking. E is for courts like basketball or tennis. F is for walking and hiking. G for picnicking. H is for golfing. I is for playgrounds. And J is for other or you don't know. So you can choose up to 3. And if you change your mind, the keypad recognizes the last votes that you take. So it looks like everyone's done. All set? Okay, so beaches is the most popular. So almost 2/3 of you said beaches is one of your top 3 choices, and more than half of you said walking and hiking. So those are more passive recreational uses, but clearly a good percentage of you also come to parks for more active activities, such as using the ball fields, or biking, or basketball or tennis courts. A few of you said other. And is there something that you want to just, if you voted other for one of your choices, do you want to mention something?
like a music festival or...
Okay, music
ethnic,
festival.
Something ethnic that's outside.
Orienteering.
Orienteering, sort of a subset maybe of hiking. Any others? Okay, the next question. What open space or park do you visit the most? Now, we can only pick 10, so we may not get all of the ones that you consider to be your favorites, but again, we're asking you to pick 3. So A is Lynn Woods Reservation, B is High Rock Park, C C is Red Rock Park. D is Manning Park, Manning Field. E is the beaches in Lynn. F is Lynn Commons. G is Gallagher Park. H is Keeney Park. I is any of the playgrounds. There are lots of playgrounds in the city. And again, J, other.
What do you consider a dog park?
I would put that as other. And we'll talk about that later.
There's no album.
Yeah, that's why I was on, because I had to go into
Everyone all set? Still need a little more time? Yep.
No, I just wanted to ask, where is Gallagher Park and
Pine Hill.
Tapley? About Tapley?
Top of Frankel Street.
Okay.
What's Lynn Tech Park? What would that be?
Neptune Towers. Linwood Commercial.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but what's the name of the park? It's not up there, right?
I think the name of the park is,
Okay, that's not.
I think that's Connery Field.
Thank
At
you.
least, according to the map.
Thank you.
All set?
Let's go.
Okay, so the two top vote getters were Linwood's Reservation and the beaches, and I think that's fairly consistent with the answers to the previous question in terms of the things that you like to do the most. But a third of you also said that Red Rock Park is very popular, and a quarter of you mentioned High Rock Park.
See, I consider Red Rock part of the beaches, so you can add those together, and I bet you get a lot of questions.
Okay. Yeah, those two could be added together. So when you go to your favorite park, how do you get there? Do you walk? Do you drive? C is take public transportation. D is bike. E is other. Yeah, just one. All set? Okay, so most of you walk, and we'll follow up a little bit on with that on the next question. And almost more than a quarter of you also drive. So the next question is, how close do you live to a park or a recreational facility? Is it under a quarter of a mile, which is choice A, and that would be a 5-minute walk. B is a quarter to a half mile, which would be a 5 to a 10-minute walk. C is a half mile to a mile, which would be a 10 to 20-minute walk. D is 1 to 2 miles, a 20 to 40-minute walk. And E is more than 2 miles. F is other. Because we're interested in finding out what you think about the distribution of parks and recreational facilities. And we do have this map here that shows where all the parks and recreational facilities are. And generally they're pretty well scattered, but they may not always be the types of parks and recreational facilities that you like to go to. Anyone else need to vote on this one? So most of you live within a quarter mile or 5-minute walk, almost 2/3 of you. And then another quarter of you live within a mile. So most pretty close, but one of the things that we'll talk about is whether or not you think that's good or bad. So I think that this is the last of the questions that I'll be asking you in the presentation. So what is the biggest problem that you think faces our open space and recreational facilities in Lynn? And again, here we're looking to give you 3 choices. So A is that there isn't enough open space. B, trash. C, the facilities are in disrepair. D, public safety issues. E, vandalism. F, they're too crowded. G, the lack of field availability. So if you play an organized sport, are you having trouble booking a field? H, lack of parking. I, inaccessibility for persons with disabilities. And J, other. And again, you can pick up to 3.
Stop it.
Everyone weighed in? Okay, so we have a pretty good distribution here. But trash seems to be the big issue. And in second place is facilities in disrepair. And vandalism. Those seem to be the top 3. Upkeep, is that an other that you?
No, I feel all 3 fall into.
Yes, all 3 fit
fall
into the
upkeep.
upkeep category. And Lynn, like a lot of other cities and towns, have high demand for their park and rec facilities. They don't always have enough staff or equipment to maintain them. So one of the things that we'll be looking at in this plan is how we might be able to find ways to improve it. You know, obviously finding more money, more staff is the obvious way, but it's not the easiest way. It looks like a couple of you might have chosen other. So again, if anyone has something they wanted to add to the discussion.
Unknown.
Unknown.
Like, just not, you know, it's not out there, people aren't aware of.
Oh, so the lack of awareness of the park facilities themselves. Yeah.
Heritage State Park is what I'm thinking of across.
Yeah.
That's true.
Wide open.
Yeah, we find in a lot of cities and towns that we work in that, you know, some people just automatically know about these parks and rec facilities, but others just don't even know that they do exist. So one of the things that's in the plan and that we'll probably continue to incorporate in the plan is to make sure that, you know, whether it's done via websites or other means, that awareness be kept up of the park and rec facility. Okay, so hold on to these. We'll be collecting them shortly. They won't open your garage or anything. They won't operate your TV at home. So just want to give you a snapshot of the city of Lynn. A lot of you may know this stuff, but it always is somewhat surprising to people who just don't think about these things. So Lynn has generally seen a steady increase in population over the last 20 years. In the 2010 census, it was just over 90,000. And then MAPC does population projections, and we project that it will continue to increase by another 10% in the next 15 years, so that by 2030, you'll be close to 100,000. Most of that growth is expected to be for those who are 65 and older. And about a third of the households in Lynn are households that have children under 18. And that seems to be represented here. Lynn is becoming more diverse. So the white alone population has declined by 34% in the last 15 years. The median household income in Lynn is about a third of what the state's median household income is. And 50% of the households are considered to be cost burdened. And when we talk about that, we mean that a household is paying more than 30% of its income on housing. So if you spend that much or more on housing, you're considered to be cost burdened. So there's a fairly high percentage of households like that here in Lynn. In terms of land use, 39% of your land is residential based, and that's single-family homes, two-family homes, three-family homes, and multifamily. So that's all of it mixed together. So that's the most predominant. But interestingly enough, more than a quarter of the land area, and the second highest category, is open space and recreational facilities. facilities. And as you probably all know, the majority of that is Lynn Woods, but it's an incredibly valuable resource to have within your city limits. And next would be other land uses, so that's institutional city land uses, things along those lines. About 6% is industrial, 5% is multiple use, so that's a mix of residential or office or commercial, and commercial is another 5%. So this is just a quick map that shows the city and its land uses. So the yellow is all the residential uses, the green, it's the open space, and again we have a map here that focuses mostly on the open space. The purple is the industrial, the red is the commercial. And then here's a slide of the map that we have up front. So again, you know, the open space and park resources are fairly well distributed around the city. You know, Lynn Woods is the predominant feature here, with a lot of water bodies, and a lot of that is also used for water supply. But you have a lot of small pocket parks and playgrounds scattered in this part of the city. So, you know, one of the things that we want to explore with you when we open it up for discussion is what you think about the mix of the park and rec facilities and things along those lines. So just a quick summary of some of the key open space and rec facilities and parks here. Lynn Woods, it's 2,200 acres. It's mostly forested. There's 30 miles of trails for hiking and running and cross-country skiing and biking. And it's one of the largest municipal parks in the country. It's not the largest, but it's one of them. I think it might be the largest municipal park in Massachusetts. So you got something. High Rock Park, a 7-acre park known for its views. The tower and the observatory contain a powerful telescope for passive recreation. And there are active uses on site as well, play equipment and things along those lines. Red Rock Park, a waterfront park with views and colorful tidal pools. And they host a free summer concert series and a fireworks celebration. Manning Field, a lot of sporting events happen there. It's used by high schools and so on and so forth. But it's also open to the general public for walking and jogging when there aren't school events scheduled. And it was reconstructed after the demolition of the Manning Bowl in 2004. Kings Beach, hard-packed sands exposed at low tide, offers swimming during the months of July and August, although there's no lifeguard. Lynn Commons, 8.8 acres downtown. So this is one of the most prominent sites in the downtown area. Has large open lawns that are used for informal sports. Also has a bandstand, fountain, walking paths, and benches for relaxing. Gallagher Park, a 16-acre park with play equipment, some ball fields, court areas, passive recreation as well. And recent repairs have been made to court surfaces and play equipment. Keeney Park, a 21-acre park, also with children's play equipment, a new softball field, 5 new tennis courts, and a Little League field, and that's where the Lynn Carnival is held. Okay, so before I go to the next part of the evening, this is probably a good time to break and see if anyone has any questions about what we've heard so far.
I want to ask a question regarding
Okay, maybe if you could talk to the mic if you don't mind. Just for the recording purposes.
for recording purposes. I'll be first. No, basically, my question was regarding, we talked about the upkeep and what we thought was wrong with things that we needed to look towards. My question is regarding funding. Is this something that we can do with you directly, or is this something that we have to do with City Hall as far as money is concerned and extra staff? As you described, that was one of the minor obstacles.
Well, we want to certainly hear what people have to say about those things, and we want to incorporate that type of input into the plan itself. In terms of the recommendations, we'll be making a series of recommendations in the plan, but we're not an agency that would provide funding, but we would help to identify sources of funding where there might be some sources of funding, whether it's from the state or the federal government or whatever.
And then you would direct that to City Hall?
Yeah, so it would be part of the recommendations, and we'd work with City Hall to try and find those funds. Any other comments or questions at this point? If you can't get to the mic, I'll repeat the question.
Okay, you can repeat it. So I'm wondering, does the open space plan have any relation or impact on open space and green space in new development?
The question is whether the plan will address the issue of any new open space or recreational facilities associated with new development. And to the extent that new development may incorporate some open space opportunities, we can talk about that. If there's some larger, we'll be talking about large developments that are sort of in the pipeline or that are being proposed. And I know that there's some that are going to be relatively significant in size, and if it makes sense to try and see if there are opportunities to identify open space or recreational facilities associated with those developments, we probably will try to look into it, but we won't be making recommendations specific to projects that haven't really been permitted yet.
But we might look possibly at some principles?
Yeah, and we can look at some principles and we can look at some opportunities. And when we get into the next exercise, that would be a good time to talk about what those opportunities might be. Any other questions at this point? Okay. So, what I'd like to do for the next few minutes is we're doing what we call a SWOT analysis. So we're going to ask you to just comment on what you consider to be the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats regarding open space and recreational facilities. So an example of a strength might be a particular park that you really like, or a particular thing that you can do in a park that maybe you can't do in other park and recreational facilities, whether in Lynn or elsewhere. When we talk about a weakness, some of you already focused on that when I asked the question about some of the issues. So a weakness may be that you can't find a field when you want one, or that the equipment is damaged. An opportunity might be new development where there might be some opportunities to build new park or recreation facilities. And a threat may also be development, because it may take land that you would like to see preserved for open space or recreational facilities. So I'd like to try and start with the strengths. If you can get to the mic easily, that would just help with the recording, but otherwise I'll repeat the comment. And I will be recording them, and we're going to summarize all of this in the plan itself. So it's open to you for any thoughts that you have. What do you consider to be the strengths of the park and rec facilities and programs here in the city of Lynn? Yeah.
Okay, I'll be first.
Great.
I see one of the strengths is a lot of changes being made with, especially this new project going on down the common. They're going to put up new lighting, and we've seen the new lighting put up throughout the city, down Market Street here. All the antique lighting is what I'm saying, the new antique lighting, which really, I think makes the community look nice, and I'd like to see more of it.
Okay?
You know, especially, even on our main thoroughfares like Route 1A, or even in our parks, and all the open spaces, just like it is right down on the beach too, it's all the antique lighting down there, and I really think it's a shred. So more of that.
Okay. Next.
Do people need to come, or they can just speak out loud?
If they speak up, then I'll repeat it. Any other thoughts?
So you're asking for recommendations?
Or just,
I missed that
what,
part,
this
I
is a little
apologize.
bit more observations, what you think are the strengths, you know, what really you find to be most appreciative of regarding Lynn's cities.
One thing that was pointed out in your maps was the fact that Lynn is filled with pocket parks and different open space of various degrees. Now, with a city as land-starved as Lynn, it's good to hold on to those, so I would like to see a moratorium on taking any more open space. The nice thing is everybody does live within a quarter mile to a half a mile of it. I mean, the very diversity. I mean, what other city in the world has is bookended between 3 miles of ocean frontage and one of the major forested parks in the country? Plus all the little pocket parks, recreational facilities, etc. And then we'll get into the weaknesses of that's a lot.
Yep.
I found the strength to be that Akali Park was adjusted to meet the needs of the neighborhood. They took out the tennis court, which was being destroyed most of the time, and they put in waterworks for the children.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think one of the strengths is the different neighborhood associations that pitch in to help with some of the issues in the parks.
Okay. Different neighborhood associations that help to pitch in with the parks. And that's one thing that we do find helpful in a lot of communities. There are a lot of friends of type organizations. And whenever a city government or town government is strapped and can't get to all the park and rec facilities, these organizations can help.
And I think the strength is, thinking particularly of like Lynn Woods and the beaches, that people can access them without any additional out-of-pocket costs.
Okay.
Another strength is also in the Highlands at Cook Street Park. There's 4 community gardens that people can come to 24 hours, any time of the day. They can come get cauliflower, ingredients, anything they want, which was done by the Highland Coalition, but was actually started by me and my brothers by doing park cleanups. In 2011 is when we started the park cleanup. If you look at the mayor website, you'll see our pictures.
Okay.
I have to lift up that, I don't know what it's called, a promenade that goes from Swampscott all the way down to the park and beyond. The walking is just extraordinary.
Any others? Okay, we'll move on to the next one. So, weaknesses.
Sometimes lack of respect shown towards the parks.
Okay, lack of respect that's shown to the parks.
I guess I would say also too, the new trash system, I don't know if that has anything to do with why there's so few barrels at the parks. But, I mean, more barrels at the parks would maybe help.
Okay, so new trash system that,
Like down Tech Field, we use it for football, and there's 1 barrel down there.
okay, so not enough
That fills up,
trash.
and it's just not empty enough to keep it clean. You also have the skate park there that kids utilize, and now the water park that they put there, which is great. But you can't keep it clean if the resources aren't there, I guess.
I'd like to add to that comment. I notice a lot of other parks around the neighborhoods. Sometimes there might be 3 or more trash barrels near entrances and whatnot, and there's still trash everywhere.
That's
like
true.
it's 2 feet away. Maybe recycling, since we're on board with the recycling anyways, maybe recycling bins and trash bins. That might help a little bit.
Okay,
Always a lot of
so
bottles.
4 trash bins, recycling and trash bins, and I think that your comment gets at the first comment. If people are littering right next to a trash can, I think that shows disrespect to the park.
Right.
No.
Very quickly, as far as the disrespect towards the park, I think that's something that just needs to be taught. That's more hearts and minds of the people as opposed to something that can be done logistically. I think one of the other weaknesses with the parks and some of these open spaces is the lighting.
Yes. Thank you.
As in lack of
lighting. Now, I'm not asking for daylight type of lamps or anything like that, but definitely something that can keep the park illuminated to ward off vandalism or any type of destruction that may happen. A second weakness is I think because of the negligence of a lot of these parks are left unsafe for children to use. And I think the best example is the park over on Warren Street. Warren Street has exposed concrete foundations that the children could be running around, and if they trip, they could really, really hurt themselves. So that's another weakness. Lighting, safety, and accessibility, I would say. I think accessibility as far as, again, the upkeep of the park. It's more attractive to have equipment that can be used than equipment that just looks dilapidated and nobody's caring about. I think it's a shame that people have to go to other cities, Swampscott, for example. I think it's a shame that people have to take their children outside of the city of Lynn in order to find a park which is safe, modern equipment, clean. So those are some of mine.
Just to follow up on the lighting comment, what about the issue of lighting the parks to extend the use of the park into the nighttime?
That was a half of an idea that I forgot about. So yes,
So lighting for safety and for
use also, and I think the best example is Keeney Park. I was raised here in Lynn, and one of the things I've always noticed is that parks like Keeney Park generally, once the sun goes down, forget about it. Pretty much can't use that park, and I think that's the case with a lot of the parks and open spaces that we have here in the city. Again, I'm not sure how that will work, but yeah, that's a great idea.
Si alguien tiene comentarios en español también, sin vergüenza, los pueden decir y lo traducimos también para el resto.
Yes, other weaknesses are just generally the same weaknesses we find in any public infrastructure. Things get bought through either appropriations, grants, or every 2 years we put in a $4 million bond. The biggest weakness is in sustainability. There's supposed to be, in the last few years, a movement towards, I guess what they call in general the evergreen movement. Instead of just spending money once, they have to look ahead for, let's say, 5 years to sustain, to maintain. You know that if you put in 10 swings, 5 of them are going to break over 3 years, so you have to have some kind of a plan to sustain them. Also, better use of just strategic choice of materials and things that we're trying to use. Our city, generations ago, put in all the infrastructure now that is decaying. We just have to put in programs to make sure that they stay ahead of the curve. In a sense, just doing it like homeowners do. You know, every 2 years you're going to put a new roof on, you're going to paint yourself, but instead of doing what I call situational bulimia, wait till it gets all bad and then fix it, you can't do that. That's millions of dollars at a time instead of a few $100,000 over time. Now, we're going to get the opportunities, so I can address that.
Good.
Another thing with the lighting situation, we practice at Lynn Tech Field for youth football. We actually,
Youth football, you said?
yes, we
Okay.
actually had to go out and purchase our own lights for the safety of the kids.
Okay, so youth football had to purchase their own lights.
Yeah, also at the Cook Street Park, we had issues with DPW with the garbage. Miss Linda did help us out. She put garbage cans at the bottom where E Street is at and Cook Street, but when it comes to the top, where Beacon Hill is at on top, we had to provide our own garbage cans, and what we do is we gotta take our garbage cans, walk them down to the bottom of the park, pour it inside there, and that's how DPW picks up the garbage. So I mean, you know, it should be, me coming from New York City, I'm used to the sanitation taking care of the parks. I've never lived in a city where, you know, the people gotta take care of parks.
There's actually a blanket ordinance in our city that precludes park use after dusk, I believe, or something like that.
No.
That has to be addressed too,
Okay.
specifically trying to whatever, but you just make it so you're a felon if you're out after dusk.
Okay, I just want to, since we got the recording going on, I wanted to shine some light on two parks that have been very dark. Sheridan Street, there's a park there that has been an eyesore since I was a child. Smith Street Park, I don't even know what that park's even in existence for. There's been a cut in a fence over there since I was about 6 years old. That cut is still there in the fence. There was a merry-go-round type of thing there. It's just a piece of metal that's sticking out of the ground. That was the first park I ever smoked weed in, and if I want to smoke weed right now, that's probably the first park I go to today. So, you know, since we want to talk about, you know, this also has some things of public safety, dealing with the safety of our children. You know, we gotta have some that cares for parks that are neglected. These parks can't continue to be neglected. But I'm 31 years old now. You know what I'm saying? So at 6 years old, we still got the same ugly, you know, issues that's going on there. This is people that driving by on the MBTA looking at this park and saying, "Oh, Lynn is so terrible." You know what I'm saying? So I think we need to focus on places like Smith Street Park, places like Sheridan Street Park, and actually make something out of them except just being an ugly place in our city.
I would say one of the weaknesses is restroom facilities and also staffing at the parks.
Just listening to what everyone's saying, it's all under an umbrella of lack of funding. Proper funding. I know that the leadership that we have here in the city, John Kazian, for example, who oversees the Manning Complex and other parks throughout the city, they're doing an amazing job. I've been here for 40 years and I know what some of the parks used to look like. And it draws attention to our city as a whole from the negative image that other communities see us. Okay, when you look at what Manning Bowl used to be, and when it needed to be raised and redesigned and redeveloped, they took the lead to do that. Now it hosts some of the major events from around the state. Like you mentioned, high school sports, youth sports, different band competitions, multi-use purposes. I remember across from Breed when it was just a little swampland and they built a softball field and 2 baseball fields. And the lighting there, and now that hosts some of the state top tournaments from around the state. So funding improves different areas. It also changes what our image is to the other communities that are around us, so that we don't have to use parks outside the city. It changes the area not just for the parks, but also the mixed use around the parks. Restaurants, for example, you know. Proper funding to assist what we're trying to do here in the city is really what the weakness is.
Can I say something just on his point? And I agree with you that the whole sports thing is what makes Manning Bowl run. It does, but without a park that's safe for these kids to practice in, there's no game at Manning Bowl because they don't have a league, or they don't have the sport, because they have no place to practice that's safe. So then Manning Bowl loses because they can't play.
We need more parks to assist what Manning is.
Right.
Just like other cities or towns around the earth.
I mean, they just spent all this money and redid
Saugus,
Lynn Tech
Peabody.
field, and it's nothing.
Didn't even do anything.
They didn't do anything. They ripped it up to make it, they moved the baseball field over. It was, and they, like I said, they have the skate park, which I think is great. Kids love it. But when it's dark at 5 o'clock, they can't utilize it. The park right next to it, they can't utilize any of it because there's no lighting, and that is huge. You have, that park is, that field is absolutely huge, and it could be used. We share it with soccer, softball, and we can all utilize it. But after a certain amount of time, it becomes a safety concern because there's no light.
See, I think what everybody's talking about with the city of Lynn, and I didn't want to get into it, there is a racial issue there. It really is. If you go up to Ward 1, you go up to Pine Hill, okay? People, you know, it's not how much money it's spending, it's where it's being dispersed.
I live in Woodward, we don't have lights at Goudy Park.
No, but,
Just saying.
no, but, you know.
There's no trash up at Gaudy though.
Goudy Park,
That's true.
Goudy Park, my kids played at the Lynn Chargers, okay? We had a practice up at Goudy Park as Lynn Tech was being done over, and Lynn Tech looks the same now than it did previous to the renovation, okay? We were being heckled, the Ward 1 counselor was being called, the Lynn Chargers kids are doing X, Y, and Z, totally garbage, falsehoods. I live behind Lynn English High School. They supposedly put $600,000 into the park back there. They didn't, all they did was put they put the tennis courts in. That's it. The issue is not how much money is being spent, it's where it's being spent. Sheridan Street, the park there, it's garbage. I mean, you know, it's where Lynn is a unique city. You talked about how the city's becoming less white. You can see it in the park system. You go up to Goudy Park, you go up to Pine Hill Park. Those parks are a lot more better than they are at Keeney Park, the Commons, Lynn Tech, all these other urban parks that are closer to downtown. You know what's being done?
Yeah.
You guys ain't getting the money, you guys deal with it, you guys got gangs, you guys got this, you guys got that. Okay, I've seen it, I've been in Lynn for over 30 years, it's not the money, it's where it's being spent. And that's
just
the
to
fact.
add on what that gentleman was saying,
That's
at Cook
the
Street
fact.
Park, all we have is the garden. You can't do nothing at Cook Street Park other than play soccer. If you ain't playing soccer, I mean, the Highland Coalition at one point, I got together with them and we was gonna put brand new swings in and, you know, jungle gyms and things of that nature. They went there and I don't know what the city of Lynn did, but the whole wall came down. Now for the last 2-3 years, there's nothing for children to do at Cook Street Park but go in the garden, get tomatoes and have tomato fights, and then I gotta explain to them that if they wind up going to compare and they see how much 3 tomatoes cost in a pack, you understand, they see the difference, but it's all about communication, how you communicate with them. You know, pick up this, pick up that. Remember, the park are not for adults, they for children, but it takes for an adult to be in there. That's why you don't hear incidents coming out of Cook Street Park, because somebody has to supervise it. That's what I do. I get up every day and I make sure I check that park. I know what time the kids come out, I know what time they're in the park, and I know what they're doing. So I go there and monitor the parks. You know, but that's something that we have to do as a people. I mean, we just can't be like, throw everything on the city of Lynn. When it comes to taking care of the park, that's more of like our duty. You know, our children ain't gonna be like, okay, I'm just gonna throw this in the garbage here. You know, somebody gotta be there and say, throw this in the garbage. You know, so I mean, the parks are usually, it's really, as long as the city do what they gotta do, it's up to us to take care of it. So we gotta be in there. I mean, you know, not all day, but I mean, you know, check up on the park, you know, 6, you know, maybe 8, 9 o'clock at night. Hey, you know, it's dust out. What y'all doing in here? You know, you gotta communicate. But there is nothing, the only way you can have any kind of thing for a child in any park in the Highlands, you gotta go outside the Highlands, go down the hill, go all the way to Bede and come all the way back up the hill to Henry Ave Park, which has a gate on it, which they got a lock on it. But you know, there's actually no activities there, you know, so, but the children are loving the garden. That's the beautiful thing. Someone over there.
To add on to what he's saying, you know, I think as a whole, as a community, as parents also, it's important to teach our children not to litter and to clean up after themselves. And in some of the better areas like Ward 1 and what he was talking about, you know, I hate to say it, maybe some of those children are being raised to do that more than in other parts, and it's, as a community a whole, you know, we need to teach our children to clean up after themselves. But secondly, I was wondering, as far as like community service, what are the youth per se, like, you know, that go through juvenile court, are they cleaning up parks as part of their community service? Is that something that's, you know, focused on within the community? Because sometimes I know they take them outside of the community. I think they should keep it within the community.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
Wow, I can answer that for you. I was falsely accused and arrested right here in Lynn. The DA wound up dismissing the charge, but they still made me go to probation to pay for the lawyer that I shouldn't have needed if I wasn't guilty.
But did
They
they
send
take
them
you
to
out of
pantries.
Lynn?
They don't go to the parks.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
even when the judge kept like coming at me, you know, about why am I not paying, you know, why am I not paying the $132, $152 for the lawyer? I'm like, for one, I'm innocent. For two, I do the community work. I had to literally go over here to Brothers Table and go get a letter from them to take it there, and the judge still had a problem with that. But no, they're not in the parks.
Yeah,
They're at pantries.
Yeah.
The community service is from 7:45 to 11:45. By 12 o'clock, them boys is back home or doing whatever they've been doing. But they should be doing community work. The pantry is not community work. The church take care of that.
Right. The church people can handle the pantry. There's plenty of staff for that, whether they're volunteers or they're payroll, but I think community service should be focused on adding back into the community.
Right.
Okay, I mean, we can look at that, but that's a little bit outside the realm of this class. So, did you have a comment too?
Going back to like patrolling, maybe. I just moved to Lynn, and I remember one of the selectmen or whatever was talking about bringing in more white cops, and I just thought that they would probably be a lot more effective at patrolling the parks.
White cops and
I mean, even if you had unmarked white cops, just my thoughts.
Okay.
You know, they spent all this money down at Lynn Tech, and you still have a field that's filled with rocks that you have high school students playing football on.
Okay,
You know,
so that's more the condition of the field itself.
They never actually did anything to the field, other than swap the fields around, which, in all honesty, when they swapped the softball field around, they made it more dangerous for people that are walking into the park while people are playing softball, because they're right in the line of fire of them hitting baseball. You know, and as far as cleaning it up, we have our kids walk the field every single night, pick up all the water bottles and trash, and have them throw it away.
Yeah.
Every single night.
So to piggyback, I think a lot of the weaknesses with our parks and recreational areas is negligence. I mean, it's really what motivated us to get it to those park cleanups. And we brought it to the attention of the city, but still there was no show of maintenance after we had been done with 3 parks that summer. So it's a matter, I think it's a matter of just negligence.
We didn't just clean up parks. We also cleaned up blocks. When we connected with Calvin, there was a park on the block that Calvin took us to, but we didn't just clean up the park on the block. We had to clean the whole block, which makes you question, what is DPW doing? I mean, it's one thing, okay, we'll clean up the park, but we gotta clean up the block. And this block has elderly people on it. That's why Calvin contacted us, and we connected with Calvin. Selby Street is full of senior citizens. We can't expect them to go out there and pick all that stuff up.
Okay, why don't we make this the last comment for weaknesses so we can get
I just want to add, I don't think we need more cops. I don't need to see more of my brothers getting shot at night because some guy that doesn't understand him doesn't like the fact that he goes aggressive, or he doesn't like the way that he's being approached while he's in his own neighborhood, in his own community, with people that look and feel things just the way he does. You see what I'm saying? Because that's another issue.
More cops don't fix everything.
I just wanted to add that for the record.